Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of Getting It Right, Tangled Lies, Reckonings, and I have a new historical novel coming out in the next year and in September. And I've got a guest today who's a historical writer that I'm learning a lot from her. You met Pamela Taylor. Hey, Pamela.
Hi.
You met her last year, but a lot has happened since then. She is a pianist, an organist, an editor. She actually edited Reckonings for me, which was wonderful. She was so easy and wonderful to work with. She's a dog lover, a photographer, and an award-winning author of the Second Son Chronicles, which is a historical fiction series of which I am the proud owner of 3. But I have to catch up because she has 8 new ones coming out that we're going to hear about. And her new one, A Feeling in the Bones, the 8th book in the series, comes out in 2 days. So you're going to get to see this, and then you can rush out and buy it right away. Welcome, Pamela.
Delighted to be here, Karen. We had such a wonderful time when we last talked, and I've been looking forward to this for quite some time.
Yes, indeed, we did. So I love rereading your bio. And one of the things that was so interesting that you mentioned was that your love of music and your skill, that you're a concert pianist, had an influence on your writing. And you talked a little bit about how that worked. Can you tell our audience about it?
It's not a conscious thing. I don't actually set out when I'm writing a paragraph or a chapter to say I'm going to apply principles of music to this. But I think my musical training gives me kind of a sense for the rhythm of speech and phrasing and flow that comes out somewhat unconsciously as I'm writing. And I do think it matters because I think there probably are some people like me who, as they read, they actually voice the words in their head, or these days, if you're listening to an audiobook, you're actually hearing someone speaking the words in your ears. So I do think that that's really important in a narrative and in making the narrative flow well for the reader.
Ah, I like that. And the rhythm of sentences and the flow of sentences. Sometimes I'm reading and I just get stopped by a beautiful, beautiful sentence. And I just have to, and it's because, and I think it's the rhythm and the flow and including word choice. So you're also a gifted photographer. I got to see some of your beautiful photography, and you travel quite a bit. And so do those 2 play into your writing at all?
It's what I call research by immersion. I actually love visiting places that are from the time period of what I'm writing about. And I never know what the next thing I'm going to be writing about is, what the topic's going to be, what the setting's going to be. So when I'm in these places, first of all, I'm just sort of absorbing the atmosphere. It's really just sort of mentally putting yourself back in the period of time when this place was populated. Even if it's a ruin, it was once populated and lively and active, and there were a lot of characters there. And if you just mentally take yourself back there, you can take on a sense of what that world was like. On the other hand, I'm going to walk away from it, and I'm going to come back home, and I'm going to sit in front of my computer and start typing on the keyboard. So while I'm there, I always take lots and lots and lots of pictures. And I find that even if I'm not using that precise setting in a story, I find bits and pieces that I can work into the story, and having the pictures as a reminder of what something looked like is enormously helpful. In fact, in the Second Son Chronicles, there is a particular castle that is in a very dramatic landscape. And the dramatic landscape is very useful to the narrative. But if I had not been to this particular location in England and taken lots and lots of pictures, I would not have had such a vivid image in my own mind of what I wanted to create for the reader and for my characters to populate. And so it really served me well, having taken all those pictures. The other thing I've done is that these novels are set in the 14th century. And so I have discovered that a number of my pictures are actually quite suitable for the gallery page on the Chronicles website, where you can actually show people what some of these things might actually have been like. One of my favorite things that I have in the gallery is a picture of two wooden spice chests. And I came across these spice chests in a castle that isn't ruined, and is actually still an active residence today, but they are from the 14th century. And they're lovely little square boxes with little small hasps on them for a lock to go through. And that speaks to just how precious and expensive spices were at the time, that they were actually locked up so that only the cook who had the key could get to them.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. As you know, I'm attempting my first historical novel, True Grace. And I do find the pictures, I don't take them myself, but I do find putting the pictures around me of what things looked like, everything from something tiny to something, a truck, a car, a street, it just helps me create. And I did go to England and visit the place where my character's father was born. And that was very, very helpful. So I like your whole idea of immersion, research by immersion. I love it. That's really good. So you mentioned the Chronicles, the Second Son Chronicles, and just remind our audience before we talk about the latest book, kind of what's the premise? Who's our hero, and what is the premise of the series?
Well, the series is set in the 14th century, as I said, sort of the dawn of the Renaissance, when excuse me, new ideas are really coming on the scene. And the protagonist, whose name is Alfred, is the second son of the second son of the king. So he's horribly unlikely to ever figure in the succession in any way. His grandfather, though, who is the king, is utterly convinced that Alfred has some sort of special destiny. But what that special destiny might be is unforeseeable, as you might imagine. And the volumes of the Chronicle follow Alfred on that journey to discover what his grandfather foresaw for him.
And the span of time of the 8 books, what is that?
Alfred is, when the first volume opens, Alfred is roughly 19 or 20-ish, maybe just turned 20. The first book does have some backstory provided that that goes back to when he was a bit younger and when he learned what his grandfather thought was in the cards for him. But by the time we get to volume 8, he is roughly in his mid-30s.
Okay.
So we've spanned a period of about 15, 16, 17 years over the course of the the 8 volumes. I'm going ahead and counting it as 8 because the publisher has already got me working on number 9. So
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And since he's so young, he's got a lot of years ahead of him. So I can see lots of books.
but yeah, it's really Alfred's journey of discovery to learn what his grandfather
So
believed would be his destiny.
yeah, yeah. So one of the things you mention on your website is that, and I found to be true in reading the first three, is that every book is a standalone book, but you do so much. It's so much richer when you start with the first and move your way through. But each book, is a standalone, amazing story. Um, it, so let's just try and intrigue our audience into purchasing at least number 8, which comes out in 2 days, and maybe they'll say, "Oh, I should really start this from the beginning." So, tell us about why they should buy number 8.
Well, the volume 8, as you mentioned, is entitled A Feeling in the Bones. And it opens with Alfred and the other characters that surround him in a period very much like the one he grew up in during his grandfather's reign. The kingdom is at peace. There's prosperity for the people. Daily life goes on. Alfred is a great lover of horses, by the way.
Mm.
And he's actually engaged in training a young colt. He is going about among the people like his grandfather did, going with the military patrols that go around the countryside from time to time. He's raising his family. He has 2 daughters and 2 sons. And life is pretty much moving along at a comfortable, peaceful, sane pace. But there's something nagging at him. Something, every now and then, something will come up that just kind of bugs him, to use a modern term, and he doesn't know why. And he moves past that particular event, and something else nags at him. And he winds up with this rather visceral feeling that there's something lurking out of sight that he can't put his hands on, and he doesn't know what it is. And that's the feeling in the bones that he doesn't know what to do about. So, not to give away any spoilers, of course, there is a character who reappears in this book who had not been in the story for several volumes. So that just adds another element of interest to Alfred's concern that there's something just over the horizon that he doesn't know what to make of.
Intriguing indeed. I used the right word, intrigue. That sounds good. I also read.
Intrigue, I think.
I'm sorry, what were you saying? That intrigue is?
No, I think your use of intrigue is a very good word.
Good. So, so it's coming out in 2 days. Are you doing any launch, anything that everybody should look for, or besides this?
Well, this is a big part of the launch. It's kind of interesting when you write a series with the same characters that flow through all the volumes and flow through the entire story arc of the series. launch becomes kind of a different thing.
Mm,
It becomes less of a, here's this entirely brand new set of characters, brand new setting, brand new location, brand new set of problems for the protagonist. Although there always is the brand new set of problems for the protagonist. And so launch becomes more about creating the anticipation by keeping people reading and caught up with you and so on. So this, Karen, is really a great way, as far as I'm concerned, to kick off the fact that volume 8 will be out there in the world.
yes.
And if people are not already following the Chronicles and haven't already pre-ordered it, there's still time. I mean,
Mhm.
you pre-order on Amazon and it lands in your Kindle library or in your physical mailbox on release date, and that's still before the holidays. So you
And that's
still could do some last minute Christmas shopping or holiday shopping.
absolutely. And give some as friends. Give some of the books to friends as a present. That's a great idea. Um, so I mentioned earlier that you are an editor, and that's one of the things that you do, and that you have a dog biscuit or dog treat business. And both of those things, one I knew about, and the other I was like, what? So just tell us briefly about your two
Well,
businesses.
it's really kind of a funny story. My my youngest dog is, she needs extra fiber in her diet.
Mm,
And we've always gotten that largely through giving her a big dollop of pumpkin on her breakfast. Um, and I was getting ready to go to a book festival, and I was going to be out of town for a while. She was going to have to go boarding. So I was trying to figure out how I could keep the pumpkin in her diet and
mm.
not have to take cans of pumpkin to the boarding facility and trust them to open it up and keep it refrigerated and all that sort of stuff. So I started making pumpkin-based little cookie treats for her.
Mm.
And when she went boarding, those treats became part of what they fed her during the time she was there. It was easy for them to manage. And then I kind of got carried away experimenting with other flavors and other things that I liked. So I've actually, before the pandemic, I was selling those treats regularly at craft fairs. Um, and that, of course, expanded into, okay, making toys and blankets out of fleece and a whole bunch of other things. So pandemic kind of slowed things down a bit, but I'm getting back into it and definitely still doing the blankets and the toys, and
That is so
it's
cool.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. So if people wanted to find out more about you, about your businesses, both your editing business and your doggy treat and toy business, or they just wanted to find out more about the Second Son Chronicles, and that another book is gonna come, so they need to hurry up and catch up, where could they find you?
Well, probably the best starting place is at my author website, which is pamela-taylor.com. There are links there to the website for the Chronicles. And on the author bio page, I think there are links there to the editing business and to the pet treat business. But there's also a contact form there. I love getting mail from readers. It's kind of a highlight of my day when that happens. But there's also a form for subscribing to my newsletter. And one of the things I promise all my subscribers is I'm not going to blast you, fill your inbox with spam every day. My newsletter comes out 3 to 4 times a year when there's something newsworthy to share with readers. I I don't want them to get frustrated and unsubscribe. So I want to make sure that there's useful content and I send out. But there is a subscription form on the pamela-taylor.com website, and always delighted to see new people interested in the books.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. And thank you for listening and being with us today. I hope that you will take Pamela up on her offer and you'll go subscribe to her newsletter and go visit her website. And I hope you'll do the same for me, that you'll go and follow me on Facebook and follow me on YouTube. And Facebook, I'm Karen E. Osborne, author, and on YouTube, I'm Karen E. Osborne. And I look forward to seeing you next time on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thanks, everybody.